checking in on Facebook and TikTok and YouTube. Good to see Robbie. Good to see you, Jane. Good to see you, Jennifer. Good to see you, Tiffany. Good to see Excalibur Man. Good to see Carrie. Good to see you all joining in. Welcome to today's Bible study. In today's session, we're going to be talking about the 3 mistakes that you have likely been making that are keeping you in a place of being unfulfilled and really having to manage miserable. So by the end of today's conversation, you will have some actions that you can take so that you can address these areas of life that you no longer have to feel that unfulfilled, I'm lost type of feeling. Let me say hello to a few more people. Kristen, good to see you. BJ Burks, good to see you. And so one of the things that I often get in conversations when I'm working with women, one of the very first things that they'll say is that I feel lost. They'll say, I feel like I have lost myself. So the matters, the issues, the situations in life that have occurred have caused them to feel lost. And so today we're going to address that being lost. Mammy, good to see you. And Blaze Mob, good to see you. Let's pray so we can jump in and get right into today's session and address these topics of unfulfilled faith. Father, thank you for this day that you have made for us to rejoice and be glad in it. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with each and every person, wherever they may be in the world, whatever platform they may be on, whether they're here live, whether they're a part of Team Replay. I thank you for their presence. And I pray that today's session, this Bible study, this teaching would be something that would encourage them out of this place of being unfulfilled in life and unfulfilled in their faith and brought into life more abundantly. I pray that you would join us here, that your presence would be here, and that our lives would forever be transformed. We thank you in advance. Amen. So a few more people, Sarah King, Barbara, good to see you. Baby Funk Monkey, Michael, Ted, Ty, good to see you. All right, so today we're going to jump in, talk about this place of being unfulfilled in our faith and the 3 mistakes that are commonly made that cause us to be there. And so we'll be in a few different passages of scripture. We're obviously going to work out of Genesis because that's our home base. We love to go to Genesis, and I love teaching from Genesis because it provides a foundation for God's plan. It allows us to see the pureness of God's plan. It allows us to see what God designed before people messed it up. And as we go through the rest of the Bible, we are reading the process of correction. We're reading people's lives that have made mistakes, and we're able to learn from their lives and see the principles that are in their stories and then apply them to ours. And so today, when we're going to look at this issue of unfulfilled faith, we're going to jump into James chapter 2 and then couple that with a few more scriptures. And so if you've been in this place of being unfulfilled, wondering like why is life like this? Why do I feel so unfulfilled? Like I have these thoughts, I have dreams, I have aspirations. There's something that I want to achieve in life, and yet I feel unfulfilled. I feel empty. I feel like my life is not really making a difference. If you've felt that way, there are a few reasons why. And so let's jump into James chapter 2 and read what James says. And then we're going to pull from that some principles that we can apply from our lives. And in James chapter 2, it says this: what good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? If a brother or a sister is poorly clothed and lacking in daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, be warm and filled, without giving them the things needed for the body, what good is it? So also faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But some will say, you have faith and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. And so when we look at this particular passage about faith and about works, there's some real principles. There's some real things that we can see in there that we can apply to our lives. For one, when we're looking in this particular passage, it starts off just asking, what good is it, brothers, if someone says he have faith and not have works? So when we're talking about faith and works, what we see is that they go together. Oftentimes, when in my experience working with women and in the gym And I love the opportunity to serve from a place of physical wellness as it pertains to transforming lives, because the physical is such a basic part of life that when we address the physical, we get to see and learn principles that we can apply to other areas of our lives. When you deal with the physical matters of your life, you will learn things, you will learn principles, you will learn concepts that you could apply to other areas of your lives. And for the last few weeks, we've been talking about the pattern of change. And if you want to have a change in your life, there needs to be some type of pattern. Now, we find that in the beginning, in Genesis, God is laying out a pattern. God is designing something. And so when we see God's design, we can take that pattern and just like a pattern, if you're sewing or if you're going to draw something on a wall and you highlight it and you illuminate it up onto the wall, there's a pattern, there's something that you can trace. There's a path that you could follow. Growing up, my dad, we would go on a lot of road trips. And my dad was a maps person. So he would always have a map. And even today, even with GPS and all that, my dad still has a few maps. And he would have the atlas maps and the fold out paper maps. He has maps. He would use maps. And the thing about the maps is we're not actually, we're not actually traveling on the map, right? The map is just another illustration of the path that we are going to be on. And many people can have that map, right? That map, that pattern can be used by many people. And if they're on a particular path, that map will show them the way. And so when we're looking at the Bible, we are seeing a map. We're seeing a illustration of God's plan for our lives. And so when we look at in the beginning, when God is laying out everything, and when God begins to speak about mankind, one of the first thing that God says is, I'm making you in my image and in my likeness. This is very important for our existence, because when we know the image and likeness we're made in, then we know that there's a pattern for our lives. And so we struggle in life being unfulfilled. Reason number one is because we don't understand the pattern. We don't understand the design for which we were made. As long as you do not understand your design, as long as you do not understand your divine identity, you have to operate outside of it. And it's going to be like a car trying to drive in the ocean. You're going to malfunction. As long as you're outside of your divine identity, you're going to be outside of your divine purpose. You're going to be outside of what your divine actions are to be, and you're going to feel unfulfilled. Because there's going to be this thing inside of you, this spirit inside of you, this voice inside of you that's saying to you, I know there has to be more than this, but yet I just feel so unfulfilled, so stuck. And then here's the thing, and this is what I oftentimes show a lot of the women. When you're outside of divine identity, when you don't understand that God has made you for a purpose and there's a reason for your existence, and then life begins to happen and circumstances and situations happen in your life, those situations and circumstances, think of it like dirt being piled over top of you, and you're becoming more and more buried. Your life is becoming more and more buried. Your purpose is becoming more and more buried. And you're going through life, you're doing actions, you're doing things, but you feel buried. You're alive. Yes, you're breathing, but you're buried. And that's not fulfilling. And so you're in this place and you're wondering, like, every day I feel like less and less of me is showing up in the world, even though I'm breathing, I have life, I'm moving around, I'm doing things, but I just feel unfulfilled. Being buried by life. And so when we're looking at our identity, this divine identity that God designed us for, as long as we're outside of that, we're going to be missing a part of life. And so when we're looking at this, we're like, okay, we can understand that God said, I was made in your image and likeness. And so when we start to look at God and we start to study, we can see some things, even so simple as when we first open the Bible and begin looking at it, the very first word says, in the beginning, God created. Stop. Stop right there. If we're made in God's image and likeness, if we come across this understanding as we're reading through scripture, I am made in God's image and likeness. And then we go back and read again. Like, this is where the Bible is so great, because you can go through and as you're reading it, you see some truth. And then as you read again, you say, oh man, that truth is now illuminated in a different way. So in Genesis, it says that we're made in God's image and likeness. And then we read in the very first chapter, the very first verse, in the beginning, God created. What do we then know? We know then that we are made in the image and likeness of God, the creator. And what does that mean for our lives? It means that our image and likeness is one that is to be creative. We're one to be creative. We have a creative power within us, and we are made in this identity that is to be creative. And so whenever you're not operating in that creative power, guess what's happening? You're operating outside of your divine identity. And then guess what? Part of you is going to suffer for that. Part of you is going to be unfulfilled because there's a part of you that is designed to create. There's a part of people will say, oh, I'm not creative. Yes, you are. Don't say that. You are creative. You may not be a musical person. You might not be a person that's artistic in this way, or you might not be a person that likes to stand up and speak in front of people. But there is an area, there is a place in life where you are meant to create. There's something within you that you are to bring forth into the world through your faith, but not only through your faith, but through your actions. See, how many people have been guilty of this? How many people have been guilty, and I'll raise my hand now, how many people have been guilty of having an idea, right? You have an idea that you've never taken action on. And so guess what happens? Here you are with all of this creative power, with all of this creative genius made in the image and likeness of God, with an idea inside of you, not an idea that you simply made up, by the way. God wants you to deliver in the earth. God wants you to make an impact in the earth. So God is the giver of ideas. The Bible even says that there is a treasure within your earthen vessel. There's a treasure inside of you. And so now you have this idea, you have this thought, you have this way that you think that says, I could make a difference in this part of the world if I did this. Have you ever done that? I have. I've had those thoughts. I'm operating in life, going through life, and I see I could make a difference in this place. This is the very reason that I started helping women to transform their lives. This is how it started. I was going through life. I was playing ball, growing as an athlete, developing as an athlete. And as I was growing as an athlete, I also was the person that my classmates, my female classmates and girls that I knew growing up, they would talk to me about their problems, right? So I was that guy. I was the friend that they could go to and talk to. So as this guy, they would come to me and they would talk to me about their boyfriends and they would talk to me about their life situations. And this had happened since the time I was very young. I was the one. I would talk to them. I grew up. I'm the oldest of four. I have a sister. My sister's a year behind me. And so she was my best friend growing up in life. And so her and I spent a lot of time together. And so growing up, I had this interaction with a woman, my sister, with my mom, right? And there was always these conversations going on as I grew up. My dad, he's there, but I was connected with my sister a lot. We used to make trades as I grew up. And as an athlete, oftentimes, if I didn't have someone that I could play catch with or play ball with, I would ask my sister, will you play catch with me? Well, the flip side of that was she wanted somebody to play house and play dolls and stuff with her. So we would trade. I'm like, if you play catch with me, I'll play dolls with you. I'll play house with you. And we would do that. And I was laughing with her just the other day because I actually just got inducted into my high school's Sports Hall of Fame. And so I got inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame, and it was very emotional. And I've been thanking lots of people, but I was thanking my sister, and I told her, I said, because of you, we made it into the Hall of Fame. I wouldn't be here without you. Those days you played catch with me. I said, I became a better ball player, better athlete. I said, but I also learned how to do hair. I also learned how to do hair because I was playing house with you. And I was thanking her. But through life, I grew up with this. So here I am becoming an athlete, highly competitive, playing at the highest levels, and also having lots of conversations with women who are going through different struggles in life. Many of them would tell me, I'm telling you something that I've never told anyone before. So I became this like safety, and this is how I identify myself. I became this safety deposit box where someone felt so safe with me that they could share their secrets. And I remember there were times where they would tell me some of the most horrible stories about what someone had done to them. I remember one time I was sitting in my dorm in college. My roommate was out and I was crying. I mean, I was bawling because the stories that I had heard, they had been accumulating in my life. And this young lady at this particular time, I'll give it to you real quick. There was a young lady that called my dorm room, and she begins, she's acting like she's looking for someone and like it was a wrong number. But she was really calling me on purpose. And I later came to find out was that this young lady, she was part of a sorority. She's going through this sorority process, and she's going through this process. And one of the girls had identified me, and they had told her, they said, there's no way that this guy is as genuine as he says he is. So we are going to play a trick on him, and we're going to call, and we're going to expose him. So this was their plan as a sorority. So this girl calls me, and she's acting like it's the wrong number, and I'm talking to her. And then lo and behold, she's like, you sound really nice, blah, blah, blah. And then I don't know how it happened, but at a certain point in the conversation, she starts telling me about her life. She starts telling me that she's been abused and molested and taken advantage of by family members, that she was impregnated by someone in her family. She's telling me all this stuff. Now, at this point, she's crying. She's just bawling. She's like letting it all out. And then she gets to the point in the conversation, and she says, I have to tell you, I'm so sorry. She said, I called you. This was a joke. This was all a joke. I'm supposed to be calling, exposing you for not being a genuine person. And she said, you are exactly who you present yourself to be. And she had told me this story. She didn't even know me. And so she's apologizing, she's crying. And so like after that, I'm sitting in my room by myself. I'm crying, and I'm asking God, why do you let these stories come to me? Why do you let these people, these women tell me their stories? Why are they telling me the things they've never told anyone before? Why are they telling me? And I'm like asking God, and I'm crying. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm asking these questions. And again, this is not like I heard it out loud in my room or anything like that. But what I did hear on the inside was, because you'll do something about it. See, sometimes when we're looking at life and we think that we don't have purpose, and we're living in this place of being unfulfilled, it's because we're not asking the questions that would bring us into engagement. See, the thing is, you had ideas, I've had ideas, some I've acted on, some I haven't. But the thing about faith is this. The Bible says faith without works is dead. So the answer was because you'll do something about it. That's where your faith becomes alive. If faith without works is dead, then faith with works is alive. And so when you're feeling unfulfilled because there's something inside of you, there's a dream inside of you, there's an aspiration inside of you, there's a difference making thought inside of you that you're not taking action on, what's happening is as long as you don't do that thing, you are going to be unfulfilled because you are here to do that thing. I'm wondering why are these women telling me their stories? The answer was because you'll do something about it. And so from that time in college, and even before then, as a young man growing up and being the friend, the one that girls would talk to, oh, my boyfriend's mistreating me. And they would tell me their stories. They trusted me. They trusted me to hear them. And as I grew, first of all, not only was I growing, and I didn't know this all then, but now as I'm able to look back, and this is something that you'll be able to do in your life, you'll be able to look back and you'll be able to start to see there are some patterns. Again, we're going back to patterns. And I know, I see the people, I see the posts, there is no God. Okay. But if there is no God, then you are wasting your time just being here right now, hearing from me, because I'm going to talk about God. And so therefore, the God that I serve is still impacting your life because you are giving moments to hearing me speak. So it's still working. God is still being able to just get a word into your life, whether or not you believe it. I believe that I'm here with my faith to make an impact on your life. So I'm showing up with the work of talking and speaking and encouraging right now. And if you don't believe that there's God, then guess what? I do. So much so that I showed up, so much so that I'm going live. And guess what? You're here. So in my mind, this is how God works. Brian, if you show up and speak, someone will show up. There will be someone whose life can be impacted. And whether or not you know it or not, or even believe it or not, the words that I'm speaking, they're still making it into your being, and you're not going to be able to unhear them. So I'll appreciate it. I appreciate that you're here leaving a comment, because the comment tells the algorithm, oh, there's activity happening. It never works against me. All of it works for my good. And so when you're looking at faith and work, they go together. Faith without works is dead, but faith with works is alive. And so the idea, the dream, the thing inside of you, it requires you becoming active. In the passage in James, it says, what good is it? What good is it if someone that says they have faith doesn't do the work? What if there's a brother or sister that's poorly clothed and lacking in daily food? And all you say to them is, go in peace, be warm, be filled. That's the extent of your faith? That doesn't make a difference in anyone's life. Oh, I'm hungry, go in peace. I'm cold, be warm, be filled. No. See, your faith, when you say, I have the ability to make an impact, there's a situation in the physical realm. This person is hungry. They're poorly clothed. They're lacking in food. That's a physical situation. Okay. And so here we are. We have in our lives, whether it's a person that's lacking in food and poorly clothed, that might not be the situation that comes your way. Yours might be something else. For me, it was, Brian, here's the situation. There are women that will enter your life that feel unfulfilled. They feel empty. They feel like they've lost themselves in life. They'll look at their bodies and they'll feel discouraged and they'll feel disgraced. People have mistreated their bodies. People have handled their bodies in violent and inconsiderate ways. And now this woman's value is so low because she feels like everyone is walking all over her. Brian, that's your person. That's your person. So how do you know where your fulfillment comes in? You know where your fulfillment comes in because something will come across your life. It'll come across the lens of your life and it will bother you. It'll disturb you. You'll start thinking, I don't like that. I don't like seeing that. And you'll start to think of answers to the problem. You'll see a problem and you'll think answers to the problem. Now, When you think answers to the problem, that's not enough. That's faith. Oh, I have faith. I believe that I could do something about this problem. Oh, yeah, you have faith for it. But your faith without works is nothing. No, that's not enough. So once you start to see that there's a problem, then you say, I can do something about this. And it works. This pattern, it's a pattern. It works everywhere. Let's say you're married. You're having some issues in your marriage. You feel unfulfilled in your relationship. I feel unfulfilled, and I'm just simply managing miserable. Every day, I just feel like I'm managing miserable in this relationship that is not at all fulfilling. So what do? What's the pattern? You start to see that where there is void, that's what it means. When they're poorly clothed and they're lacking in daily food, there's a void in that situation. Where you see void, you can find fulfillment. Think about the word fulfill. And we say fulfill, but let's slow it down, break it down. Let's think of it as full filled. I'll bring out my handy dandy M&M's jar. Okay. This M&M's jar is not fully filled. It's not fulfilled. It's like a third filled. But when you want to be fulfilled, that in essence means you want this to reach its capacity. You want it to be full. You want more poured in to your relationship. If your relationship is operating at 1/3 of its capacity, the problem is that there's 2/3 that are not filled. So what's the opportunity? The problem in life, when we look at our lives and we say, oh, I'm operating and I just don't fulfilled. I'm not fulfilled in life. What it means is that there's a void. But that void also means there's an opportunity. So what can you do? When I was praying, when I'm crying, I'm asking God, why are you? I was doing a little bit. I was doing my third. The women, they would speak to me. I would listen. I would hear them. I was a safe place, but that was only 1/3 of my capacity. See, we can do. Yeah. But that doesn't mean you're fulfilled. There's still more for you. There's still this void in your life where you don't feel fulfilled, and you're saying there's more. I know that there's more. That means there's opportunity for you to grow. There's opportunity for you to develop. How do you do that? Because you take the measure of faith that you've been operating with, and then you take that faith and then you invest it into another action. See, when I was listening to the ladies and they would talk to me and I would sit with them, that was great. That was great. I was helping. I was being the ear that would hear. I was being that presence that they could trust. There one time in college, I'll tell you how this stuff works. One time in college, I'm operating in the dorm, right? I'm the dormitory resident assistant. And so there was this one time in college, and some of the girls that I knew, they were in the dorm with their boyfriends, and it was late and all this stuff. And I get a knock on my door late at night. There are 3 girls at my door. They're my friends. I know them. They had been there hanging out with some guys, and they asked, Brian, can we stay with you? I'm like, what? I was like, you were with your guys. Why don't you? We don't trust them to spend the night there. So these 3 girls asked if they spend the night in my room, and I let them. I don't know why they just didn't go back to the other side of campus, but for whatever reason, they didn't. And they came and they stayed in my room, and 3 girls slept in my bed, and I sat in a chair and I slept in a chair all night long. Because they didn't trust the guys that they were with enough to stay with them. They're like, we trust you. Can we stay here? That was me being protective. Sure, you could stay here. It's not a problem. That was me being protective. That was me being there from that little bit of faith put together with works. It made an impact in their life. They were afraid to be there, to be taken advantage of. They said, we could trust you. We can stay in your room if you let us. I said, sure, go ahead. And from that time, now I can look back on these stories and these circumstances, and it continued to help me to grow. And I kept moving forward. Now, there's a price to pay for your faith. There's a price to pay for the action you put in, because all along the way, people they would make fun of me. They would joke me. I wasn't out there having sexual experiences with girls, and I wasn't doing that. And so then it becomes, here's this guy. He listens to women, he talks with them, they trust them. He's not trying to have sex with them. So imagine what the outcome assessment of my life was. The outcome assessment was, he must be gay. Because I wasn't trying to do anything with them, because I wasn't trying to take advantage of them or get them into my bed for my own sexual pleasure or any of that stuff. No, it must be gay because he's talking to them and having conversations. No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that at all. Part of it was my mother, before I went to school and when we had the talk about the birds and the bees, my mother said this to me. She said, I pray that if you're out there having sex, I pray that you get a disease. And then she said, and God hears my prayers. And so that was enough for me, because my mother is a praying woman. And I was like, you know what? I'm not risking it. So for me, it had nothing to do with my personal desire. I one time had a woman in college, a girl, she came to my dorm, my apartment, and she took off all of her clothes. And she's like, tell me you don't want this. And I said, I do, but I'm not going to take it. Right? So I'm telling you, there's a price that you're going to pay for your faith, and it's going to cause you to get ridiculed and you'll be talked about, and people will laugh at you, just like they did with David. When David was going out to fight Goliath, then guess what happened? Goliath laughed at him. Who's this kid that you're sending out to fight me? But you're afraid of someone laughing at you. You're afraid of the rejection. And so here's point number 2. You have these ideas that you don't take action on. The other mistake that you're making is you're being afraid of the ridicule. You're afraid that someone's going to laugh at you. And so that, because you're having this identity crisis where you don't recognize that you're made in God's image and likeness, then when you go to get ready to move and you have this idea, you won't move on it because you're afraid that someone's going to make fun of you. And because you have a low value and a low self-esteem, you'll allow someone's laughter to talk you out of your growth in faith. So they're not just talking you out of growing in faith, they're talking you out of the fulfillment of your life. The fulfillment of your life. Think about that. Think about the magnitude of, you are made in God's image and likeness. And yet you're afraid that someone's going to laugh at you, so you don't take your God idea and do anything with it. You don't take the fact that your heart is disturbed and hurt and bothered by situations. You won't do anything about it because you're afraid that someone is going to reject you. And you have a rejection mentality. Your experiences with rejection are now shaping your whole entire life. People made fun of me. They called me gay. It didn't feel good. I knew that I wasn't. I knew that I liked girls. I knew that I wanted those relationships, but there was a standard that had been set in my life, and I was like, I'm not doing it. First, the standard was, my mom said, I'm praying that this happens. But then after a while, as I grew in my own faith in relationship with God, the standard was, I'm just not doing that because that's not what I desire to do. That's not what God desires for me. So then my own faith grew. It first started with my mom's standard, then it grew into my own personal convictions. And see, one thing is, you may not be around anybody that can help you grow, but as a side note, you need that. You need someone that's going to challenge your faith. Someone that's going to challenge you to not just have the idea, but to operate it and take action, because faith without works is dead. In Genesis, when God says, I've made you in my image and likeness, God also says, I've made you to be fruitful, to multiply, to replenish, and subdue, and have dominion. When someone, some circumstance, some situation, some moment of your life is being depleted, God says, through you, I already have an answer, and that is you be fruitful. Think now, look, like just consider yourself for a moment. Just think about, hear what I'm about to tell you. Okay, we're going to take this slow. See how this feels for your life. There's a situation in life that is being depleted. There's something that's happening where the best of life is being drained out. And God says to you right now, you, Kinj, you, Kelly, be fruitful, multiply, replenish, subdue, and have dominion. Which one of those words would cause you to think that you're not going to be growing and developing? Be fruitful. The state of your being is designed to be fruitful. Not occasionally. You're designed to be fruitful. That is your existence, fruitfulness. Now, what does that look like? You've probably seen some fruit trees, or you've seen a tree, or you've seen a tree. A fruitful tree, what does it look like? Imagine a fruitful tree that in its season, year after year after year, it is producing fruit. God says, be fruitful. Be fruitful. Be full of fruit. That's you. That's you. That's for you. To be fruitful, be full of fruit. Not only be fruitful, but multiply. That the fruitfulness of your life would not just be isolated, but that it would be multiplied exponentially. Now, what does this look like in real life? What does this look like in a practical term? Think about this. When you can, I am so grateful that we live in this period of time with the internet and YouTube and all this different stuff, because here's how you can multiply, real basic. You can multiply like I'm doing now. I shoot a video, I capture content, I post it, I share it, and guess how many times that can be seen? Exponentially. Guess how many times I had to shoot it? I shot it once. So you shoot content one time with your answer, because you have an answer in you for this world. So every time you shoot content and you create something that lets the world know I have an answer to the problem that you have, that not all of the world, to a particular segment of the world. You create some content for a particular segment of the world and you say, I have an answer. What you're going through, I have a passion to help you through that. I see the problem. I want to help you through it. I've made this piece of content. Now I put it out. Well, guess what? You're able to then go about your life, and then people can view your content whenever they see it. You've now multiplied. You've multiplied yourself. You're at the store, but your content is on TikTok, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, on whatever platform. It's out there. You're being multiplied. That's it. You're like, okay, great. How's that work in relationships? Great. I'm so glad you asked me. Do you know that you can create content for your relationships? Do you know there's no reason that you cannot take your phone and be a content creator for your marriage? Have you ever sat and thought, oh, we see everybody, lots of people on the internet, they're creating content and doing all this and dancing and all that good stuff. Do you know that you can do that for the person, your person in your life? Do you know that you could create a video and you send it to them? Hey, I'm creating a video. You can be as creative as you want, Like, oh, here I am. I'm cooking dinner. I'm going to the grocery store. I'm doing this. I'm cracking eggs. Boom, 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 boom. Because when they walk into the house, you're going to present them with dinner, or, hey, I'm getting ready for our date. So here I am putting on my shoes and zipping up my shirt and whatever. And now you can create content to show for your person. You don't have to post it to the rest of the world. This is for your person. And so now you're creating content for your person. You can have a whole channel. You can have your whole own YouTube channel that is private, marked private, unlisted, and you can just create content to send it to your person. And you know what they could do? They could watch it whenever they wanted to. You could create a video simply talking to them, telling them. You can do it with your children. You can do it with your spouse. You can do it anywhere. You can create content and let them know, I'm sitting in my room right now and I'm thinking about you and how much I love you. I really appreciate the opportunity to share life with you, moments of life. I remember we went on a date and it was so fun. And you know what was so special to me? It was that you were fully there and you were present. And you create this video, a few minutes, and you send it to them. It's like a digital love note. You can do that. See, your creativeness, it just needs to be agitated a little bit. The business of relationship building says you can do all the same stuff that all the people are doing creatively, and you can do that same stuff for your person. Why? Because you're saying, I'm going to be fruitful and I'm going to multiply. Why? Because when I'm fruitful and multiplying, what I'm also doing is then moving into the place of replenishing. See, in life, in your relationships, in your experiences, there will be moments that are stealing, that are taken away, that are fighting you and draining you and depleting you. So in life, there will be a depletion. However, when we operate in our God divine identity, then what happens is we're being fruitful. And when we're being fruitful, we're full of fruit. Then we have fruit in order to give. Why? Because then we are to replenish. See, if I want this jar of M&Ms to be filled up, I'm going to need to go to the store, get the resources, and then I need to pour in to this container. Faith without works is dead. I already have the answer. I already have the vision. If I go to the store, if I do this, if I do that, then I could refill this container. But if I don't do it, that idea, that faith is just dead. It's dead in the water. But if I go to the store and I get the M&Ms, I can pour in. Now I'm taking action. I can pour in, and this will be replenished. And it's the same thing in your relationship. If you would just not only have the idea, but then you would take action, then you can pour in, and you are designed. Be fruitful. These are commands that God gave. It wasn't like a suggestion. God gave this as a command. Be fruitful. This is my commandment to you. And if God is telling you to be fruitful, guess what you have? You have within you the full capacity for fruitfulness. Or else that's just torture. Or else God is just torturing you, saying, be fruitful, but you don't have the resources to be fruitful. That would be torture. Be fruitful. Multiply. Replenish, subdue. See, when you subdue, oftentimes we don't really look at that word subdue. Think of it like in business. When you subdue, that means you corner the market. That means you get a monopoly on this particular thing. This means you become the specialist. You become the go-to. You're the one. You're the chosen one. You're the one. The one. Hear what I'm saying? You are the one. You're the one of one. You're the one that can't be replaced, because when you subdue, you corner the market. You're the one. When someone thinks of the answer, you're the answer. You're the one, because you're fruitful and you've multiplied and you poured in and you become so good that you corner the market. That's why women talk to me. I cornered the market on being the one that they could talk to. They weren't talking to my teammates. They weren't talking to that guy over there. They would suggest to their friends, go talk to Brian. Go talk to Brian. So someone would show up. Oh, someone, such and such told me to come talk to you. I became the answer. This is how you become the answer. You start showing up consistently over and over and over, and you begin to corner the market. You become the answer. That's why people in marriage, when they're showing up for each other consistently, then that person's like, I'm not looking for somebody else. I'm looking for my wife. My wife is the answer. You're the answer. When it works everywhere. Coca-Cola. For some people, they won't drink Pepsi because Coca-Cola is the answer. They're like, no, I like Coke. I don't want Pepsi. I don't want whatever else. I want Coke. They've cornered the market. They've captured the market. And God has that for you. And that's where your fulfillment comes in. That's when you know you're like, I'm living in such purpose because I know who I'm called to. I know the problem I am here to solve. When you get it, it unlocks your life's possibilities. So you have to deal with the identity issue. And know you're made in God's image and likeness, and come into this understanding that you have a divine identity. Secondly, you're going to have to overcome this idea of fear because people are going to laugh at you. People are going to laugh at you. People laughed at me as I developed in life, and I became good at working with women and hearing their problems. And as I began to develop, I began to see more and more about myself. And I was like, okay, here's what I have. I went to massage therapy school, and I learned in massage therapy school how to be a good listener, how to ask questions, how to create environment that was peaceful and inviting and disarming. And I created an environment where women and men could trust me because they were going to remove their clothing and lay on the table, and I was going to massage them. This was high level trust. So I learned how to develop trust. And then later on, I took those skills and then I opened a women's training facility, and women, they would show up at the gym and they would say, okay, I want to lose 100 pounds. And they would begin to reveal to me their hurts and their pains about their physical conditions. And we would go through that process. And then they started seeing their lives changed. And then they started to have dreams. Okay, now, I'm feeling so good about myself. There's a business that I want to start. So we had an entire business complex. Women were training, women were starting their businesses, women were having ideas, they were networking, all of that. So I developed all of this. But people laughed at me. I remember the first time I ever posted my women's training poster. I put it up. I was so excited. At that time, it was called Ladies Only Lifting. Ladies Only Lift. And there were two girls. They saw it and they were laughing. And I was standing there. They didn't know it was mine. They were laughing. But I kept going. And then women started showing up. Not those girls, but women that needed me. Women that needed my help to get out of that situation where they felt like they were invisible, where they felt like they weren't the priority anywhere in life, where they felt like no one really valued them, where they felt like they had lost themselves. When they were so ashamed of their body that they didn't ever want to be intimate with their partner, or they were ashamed because they couldn't wrap a towel around them, or they couldn't wear the outfit that they wanted to wear, or they just didn't feel strong. They were ashamed to wear, dresses, sundresses, because it would show their arms, and their arms were flabby. And they would tell me all these things and how it hurt. And we built trust, and it continued. But I had to deal with the fact that along the way, I was called homosexual. I was laughed at for the ideas. In church, I wasn't like invited into the women's group where they were like, oh, Brian, you're here to serve? Fantastic. No. So here I am growing up in church. I didn't have necessarily a place to serve in church. They weren't calling me into the women's group. And I, along the way, felt rejected. I felt like, well, where's my space? What do I do? There's something in me, but I feel unfulfilled because I'm not using it. I'm not. But I started to learn, like, there's a territory for you. So where I wasn't invited in, I just made my own. I made my own space. I went out and I got my own building. I painted it pink. I had this big pink building. People drove down the street and they would say, "Oh, you're in the pink building." Yeah, I painted my building pink. I wanted it loud. I wanted to make the announcement that this is where I can serve you from. And same thing for you. You're feeling unfulfilled. You haven't really resolved that identity issue where you're afraid of people ridiculing you. And then the last part is simply you have to do the work. You can have a great grasp of your divine identity. You might say, I'm courageous enough to go beyond someone laughing at me. I'm okay. They're going to, you might as well just get it. People are going to reject you. You say, I'm okay with that. I know I'm not here for everybody. Some people are going to reject me. And guess what? As a matter of fact, I'm rejecting some people. I'm not even trying to work with everybody. There are people that I'm assigned to. Like once you get it, you're like, okay, I'm good. But then there's the part of now you have to do the work. You have to take the action. You have to take the action. And you might think like it's so big. You're like, the problem I want to solve is so big. Great. Take simple action. Let me show you what this looks like. Okay. So when we're talking about taking action, simple action. What is our action to do? Our action is to refill a situation, right? We see this, and it's not fulfilled. It's not fulfilled. It's portion filled. But then we go and we take action. And so your action is, you're like, okay, I want to make this great impact in the world. And I said the same thing. I want to create a worldwide movement, a worldwide sisterhood. This is my vision. I want to create a worldwide sisterhood. I'm the brother that created a sisterhood. I think about it, right? And I envision it and I create around it. I want to be the brother that created a sisterhood. It's big, right? A worldwide sisterhood, that there are women across the world that are part of the sisterhood. I believe this. So much so, like I would go on vacation. Whenever I travel, I would take like apparel with me, a shirt or something like that. And whenever I met, I was always looking for the woman that I could encourage. So I packed my bag and I would take some of the branded apparel that I have. And when I would travel, I would take it and I would present it to a woman wherever I was. I was spreading the sisterhood. I was spreading the message of the sisterhood wherever I went. On a cruise, I'll be there and I meet somebody. I'm like, yep, this is the person I'd be looking for. I'm like, God, just show me the right person. Show me the woman that I'm supposed to give this shirt to. And I meet someone, I know that's the person. Boom, I give her the shirt, bless her, tell her the story about the sisterhood. And so I know in different parts of the world right now, there are women that have branded apparel from me. So I was taking an action. Is that like changing the whole entire world? No, maybe not. But what was it doing? It was taking an idea and I would say, okay, now I'm going to, Now, I put, do you know how much I just put in there? Probably not. There were 2 M&Ms that dropped in there, but that's not going to fill it up. But it's an action in faith. I took an action. And so whenever you do something in faith, whenever you do the action, you are adding to the fulfillment of your life. You're adding to your life being fully filled. See, the Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. And yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for his rod and his staff, they comfort me. He prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. He anoints my head with oil. My cup overflows. See, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. But my cup overflows part is important. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. I shall not be in deficit. The Lord is my shepherd. The Lord, as the shepherd, is going to bring me into this place of provision and being fully filled. My cup overflows. And so as you continue to move in faith, your cup is being filled up. And immediately it doesn't look like much. I've been pouring in. I've been doing actions of faith. And I mean, can you really tell a major difference? Probably not. But every time you take an action of faith, when I opened my building, when I said, okay, I'm going to launch the program, that was an action of faith. Okay, it was an opportunity to serve the women that I'm called to serve. When I said, I'm going to add another hour of training, another training session, that was another action of faith. When I opened the building, that was another action of faith. See, it just kept going. When I said, okay, all right, now here we're going to we're going to go out, we're going to do some events together. That was another action of faith. Why? Because when we went out to do those events, those women who had low self-esteem then started to see that they could accomplish something. I was operating in a place that was being fruitful and multiplying and replenishing and doing subduing so that there could be dominion. And what was happening was it was filling up my life and filling up theirs. So we keep taking actions and immediately it doesn't look like much. But you take your actions anyway. You've been made with a divine identity. God has made you in his image and likeness to do something. To do something. So you have a divine identity that's made for a reason. And people are going to laugh at you, but you have enough to overcome the fear. Got to overcome the fear. And you have to take action. If you're wondering why your life doesn't feel fulfilled, it's because either you're struggling with an identity issue, you're struggling with some fear, or you haven't taken action. You can't just think about it. You can't just say, oh, go be well, be healed, be warm, and not do anything. If you have the power to do something, then you do something. And then it continues to fill up. Fill up. You will be fully filled. But God doesn't simply want you to be fully filled. The Lord is my shepherd. Later on, it says, I shall not want. Okay. My cup overflows. Do you realize what your life, that was going to be my example, but I spilled them out. I was getting ready to tell you. Do you realize what happens when this jar of M&Ms is fully filled and you add one more to it? What just happened here is what happens. There's an overflow. And in that place of overflow, what's happening in your life is impacting other people's lives. It's touching not only you, but it's spilling out from you and impacting the world around you. And that's why you and I must get to this place of being fully filled, fulfilled. Because my cup overflows is that next, there's that thing called surface tension where you're right at the edge and that next drop is going to send you into a place of overflow. A lot of times now people only think about that from the negative. The next thing that happens, this will be the straw that breaks the camel's back. And I get that happens, but there's another place where there's that surface tension of overflow where your cup is filled up, where you're not operating from the place of being empty and miserable and unfulfilled. But when you are fully filled, that next drop, that next good thing is sending you into overflow. And your life is touching those around you, impacting the environment around you. Why I showed up today. I showed up today to encourage you from this place of overflowing where what has happened in my life, I can say, listen, it can happen for you too, but you have to understand that you're made in God's image and likeness. You have to keep on pushing through the fear and the ridicule, push through that, and you have to take action. Those three things, those are the three mistakes that we make. We have an identity issue mistake, and we just believe that we're not. That's a mistake. We let somebody that's laughing at us keep us from moving forward. That's a mistake. We never take action. That's a mistake. So we flip it. We flip it. Today, you just find your one M&M. Find your one M&M of action. Just remember it. Today, just find your one M&M. What's the one M&M that you could add to your life to be fulfilled? I've poured, 10, 12 in here already. Doesn't look like anything's happening, but it's happening. If I was to continue to pour, it would be filled up. So you find that one thing you can do today, and I'll give you something. Here's something for you to do. Because we're heading into spring cleaning. We're going to wrap it up. Spring cleaning. I challenge you to look in any room in your house or your office, divide it into fours mentally, cut it into four. Okay. Go into one quadrant of this room. Okay. One quadrant of the room. Look at stuff. Look at something that you don't use. You're like, I have it here. It's collecting, taking up space. I don't use this. Get rid of it. Spring cleaning. Take action. Right? We will spring clean and take action. Look in one quarter. Cut your house or your room into fourth. Look in one quarter. Take out things that you don't use. Remove clutter by faith. Simple action, because clutter fills up your life, and you're like, I don't feel fulfilled. Great. We're gonna remove clutter. Try that. Simple action. We're not trying to change the whole world. We're going to change our environment first, because when you change your environment, it will start to shift your mindset, because now you have done something to change your environment on purpose. Okay. So I'm encouraging you today to do a little spring cleaning. We're removing clutter. And when you remove that little bit of clutter, say to it, I'm removing fear from my life. You represent doubt. I'm removing doubt from my life. I don't need this anymore. I'm removing this from my life. So do something physical, cleaning, that's going to remind you of something that's happening internally. Okay. You can do that. Simple action. You do that, put that into practice. Okay. Just be simple and get moving. And you can, you're feeling really ambitious. One thing a day. You can go through all four quadrants in 4 days, and then your room will be completely different. All right. So let me pray, and then I'll shut down the other platforms. I see some comments that we can talk about. So Father, thank you for this day that you have made, this opportunity that you have given to us to breathe and live and move, have an existence, and to rejoice, to again have joy and be glad in this day. Thank you for this message of life that would encourage us to embrace our divine identity, to overcome the fear that has kept us from moving, and to take action. We thank you for the simple process and the simple truth that we find in your word that changes our life when we apply what you have given to us as tools to transform our lives. Thank you for the process, the pattern that you have given to us, and how you have placed within us a purpose, a treasure within our earthen vessels. I pray that today someone's life would be impacted, that the M&Ms that they saw would be life to them, that it would encourage them to live a life that is fully filled by your purpose and your spirit, and that they would impact the world in the way that they uniquely can, that they would know that they have something to give and that they would give it. And so as they align with your word, I pray that you would continue to fill them and bring them to the place of overflow, so that there would be healing and abundance, that there would be no lack, because you are indeed our shepherd and we shall not want. Thank you for the green pastures. Thank you for the still waters. Thank you for the restoration of our souls. Thank you for goodness and mercy following us. And as we leave this place, but not your presence, I pray that you connect us in spirit, that we continue to move forward and rise in love with you day by day. And we thank you in advance for these things, counting them as done. Amen. All right. Thanks for showing up, everybody. Katrina, thanks for being here. I appreciate you. So let me look at some of the comments. I'm going to turn off the live stream on the other side, um, and do that real